And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us in the throne room. Today's conversation is when holding on does more damage than good. We have a special guest today. His name is Principal Allen. And we're just going to give everyone an opportunity to be able to log in and come on into the throne room. So let's just give a few minutes. Let's just see. I'm gonna try to share this link with you now, okay? Alrighty. So let's see. And copy. And then let me see. You should receive that link right now.
It's coming slowly. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm excited today. Y'all just don't understand how excited I am for today's conversation. It's really going to be one that I think is really essential. It's a conversation that's needed. Oftentimes we are holding on to things that because we're trying to be in control and we're trying to make things happen. But there are dangers in that, right? And there are things that we need to be cognizant of as we continue into trying to take control and be God, essentially, right? And so today we're going to hear about a phenomenal story, a great man who's going to share with us some of the things that he's learned throughout that process as he shares his own personal insights with us. So let us begin as I'm trying to share this to my other page. Let's kind of begin talking about who you are. So again, welcome to the throne room where we have created the space for people to purge from their issues, heal from their wounds so that they might find rest to be able to transform into that which they have been created and called to become. And that is royalty. This evening, I am honored to have with us our guest of this evening, Principal Vernon Allen. He is going to be coming into the throne room being willing and bold and courageous enough to take the cover off. So he's saying to us this evening that he's going to be correct. He's going to be curious. He's going to be open-minded. He's going to be vulnerable. And he's going to show empathy. We're all going to show empathy, but we're also going to respect the process, right? And so we are very happy and honored for him to be able to share his stories with us. We want to hear from you. So please feel free to be able to drop any comments, any questions, any testimonies, any insights that you want to in the comment section. We will see them and we will be more than happy to respond to you. If you are trying to link up with us, please do not hesitate to contact us at Royalty Mission Network or at royaltynetwork.net. We can also be found on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the things that are out there. We have, you have the ability to access us through those sites. And as we get started, again, if there's anyone who's out there who is struggling or who's having thoughts of suicidal ideations or having thoughts of harming themselves or anyone else, we will be connecting you with some resources so that you might be able to connect with someone so that you can talk to them. You're not doing life alone, and we want you to know that someone is here for you, and there are people who are out here who care about you and where you are in life. So let's give ourselves a moment to just put our hands together and welcome our guest. Principal Allen, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what connected you to RMN.
Well, I'm an educator of 13 years. proud graduate of Dell State University, big Dell State fan. Um, I was sitting in my bedroom, and a mutual friend of ours, who the Taylors,
Yeah.
sent me a message, and they were like, "You need to check this video out." And I watched your video. It was about couples. I was like, "Wow!" It was intriguing because I know both of them personally, and to
Right.
see them interact on TV was like, "Well, TV." I always told them they need their own TV show, and it happened.
So
And they were
meet the
interacting and
Taylors, right?
talking. I was like, "Wow!" I think I might want to spread my message that way. So our mutual friend sent me your information and your link. And I said, I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations, and I felt alone in that trials and tribulations. No one to contact. And I love how you just introduced the suicide and you feel alone.
Yeah.
I felt alone at one point. I was
Mm,
searching for answers. I spoke to elders, I spoke to pastors, I went to a couple of churches, even different denominations, to try to seek answers about the relationship I was in and why was it struggling.
yeah.
So,
I'm glad that we have been able to create this space. I believe wholeheartedly that God has put this in on my heart and my mind for a reason. And what we're specifically doing is I decided that I am going to do the healing challenge. And this healing challenge is something that I'm wanting everyone to become a part of, right? That my healing is not just for me, that healing is available to everyone, but it's a process and it's a hard thing to accomplish on our own. And so being able to hear stories and testimonies are is something that I believe is a pivotal part of our own personal healing process because it allows us to connect with something whereby we can touch and feel. Sometimes, as you said, you would try to talk to elders in the church and pastors. Sometimes God feels distant. And so because of that, we don't feel like we're loved or we don't feel like God is present with us when we're going through things. And what I want people to know and to understand about the healing process is whether or not God feels distant or not, there are people who are here who will give you glimpses of what love looks like, who will give you glimpses of what God's love and grace and mercy, and will remind you of those things as you go along your way. And everybody and their journey is different. No one's journey is the same. And so I'm hoping that, as you said, for me, that's really impactful for me, that when you looked at it, that's the things that you saw when you saw um, the meeting in the throne room. It's a love thing version. That was the day that you watched. So I'm really thankful for that. As we move forward, I really want you to get into um, I say it's time to take the cover off, is what I say. So it's
gotcha,
time to
gotcha.
take the cover off. When we spoke and you share with me your story, I mean, I was just like blown away by what you had told me. And really, it really touched my heart. And so I want to know, what are you willing to share? Share with the people some of your story as we really talk about this thing of holding on to something.
Miss
uh,
Jackson, how far you want me to go back? I can go back pretty far.
Listen, it's your time. You got 50 minutes, right?
I
So
got
it's
50
your
minutes.
time.
I'm,
So
I'm
I
going
think
to tell
your
you,
story is impactful.
I'm going to tell you, it started when I was 5 years old. My
Mm,
father and mother became separated. And at that point, my father left and went with a whole nother family. And my mother and I, my sister was just the three of us. It was that unit. And from that day forward, I swore to myself that when I become a father, at all costs, I'll be present for my children.
mm,
And that was the beginning of the journey. That led me to make some poor choices in a relationship, sacrificing myself physically and mentally and spiritually because I didn't want to end up in the same position or have my son end up in the same position I
mm,
was in at 5, which wasn't in my control. So that's
mm.
the beginning of the journey. As
Yeah.
as we keep going, you're gonna hear more. But
Yeah. So that's really important and impactful. And thank you for setting the stage of your story with us. Because oftentimes we think that our incidents incidences in life are isolated when they're really not. That the things in which we encounter really start with some of the things in which were broken or were tragic moments or traumas that happened to us when we were earlier on. And so, what I heard from you just now was the fact that you carried a heavy burden because of something that was traumaful for you throughout your entire lifetime, right? At this point, it is your entire lifetime, right? And so I want us to kind of get into a little bit more about what that impact was and what that did for you as you tried to save your son from a hurt and a pain that essentially you had encountered yourself.
When I got into the relationship, I found out during the course of the relationship, the person I was with became pregnant, and I had to make a critical decision. I wasn't living in the same state as the person. I was,
Right,
I have that long distance relationship.
right.
I had that going. I was like, okay, I have to man up. And God came and intervened. My job at the time when I was here, they were letting people go.
Mm,
So they let me go. They reduction in force, as they call it. I wasn't fired. So
right.
they reduced my job. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a crack down south. I decided to pack all my little rags, put them in the truck, drove all the way down south where the person was living, and I said, I'm gonna make a start here. I'm gonna start a family here. I want to be a present father in my child's life.
Mm,
So I made that critical decision. And when I made that critical decision, it led to other decisions. And after a while, I began not to recognize myself because I was
mm,
making too many compromises.
mm,
Started to get sick because of it. And
mm.
that started, I was married for 5 years. That started in the first year of the marriage.
Yeah,
And I knew something was wrong. I just felt nauseous all the time. I couldn't eat. I was tired. I was always worn down. I had never been like that. It started to take its toll. So for that 5 years, I kept sticking in there. And I mean, I would sleep on the weekend, go to work during the week. It slowly but surely almost like ended my life because I compromised so much. I didn't even recognize myself when I looked in the mirror.
wow, wow. That's deep. There was a lot of things that you said inside of there that was really important. It was the fact that we make decisions that make other decisions. Like it all goes on and on. One thing that I didn't hear you say was you blame God or anybody else for the decisions that you made. But I also heard that those decisions caused you to act as and become someone that you didn't recognize, and essentially you became sick. Can you expound a little bit more on that topic and what that means for people today? Let's bring that close to home because I think a lot of people struggle with that. That
Okay.
oftentimes we make choices with things and then we end up in a space whereby we don't even recognize ourselves.
I got to the point where my physical being started to break down with inside. High blood pressure, irritable, snap at a dime, stuff that I would normally do. I'm very calm and relaxed and very patient. That all went away. I became very aggressive and very angry. And I
Hmm.
wasn't angry towards God. It was angry because the relationship wasn't panning out the way it's supposed to. And like you said, mostly men want to be in control. And I
Right.
wanted the relationship to be a certain way, and it didn't turn out that particular way. Then you start to blame yourself internally. Withhold anger inside, which eats you out from the inside out.
Yeah. Is there one thing that you would have done differently in that process?
Yes, I before I left New Jersey, my mom gave me a Serenity coin. It looks just like this. It's like a gold coin. It has a Serenity prayer on it.
Hmm.
There's things that you can't control. There's things you cannot control. There's things that God has ability to control for you. And
Right.
just let go and let God. I didn't understand it till later on, but by the time I realized it, it was too late. I would just say, you know what, this is not in my hands. I have to just pray about it, put it on the table, and let God deal with it. But being that person I want to be in control of the situation.
So what would you say happens when we're trying to control things that we necessarily shouldn't, can't, and aren't given the capacity to control? What do you say to the person who's struggling with that control or has the issue of control?
You need to take a step back because frustration will set in. And when frustration sets in and you can't get that frustration out in a peaceful way, it's going to go from your chest to your brain and your heart because your mind continues to think without you. Ways of trying to solve problems, which comes compromise. And when you compromise yourself too much, you feel like you're being used and abused.
Mm,
So you might want to just sit back, relax, take a moment and collect your thoughts, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's going for a walk. There's things I just didn't do. It came out in my verbal tone and my attitude, which basically
mhm.
turned to a person I didn't recognize, like I told you before.
So wait, there was something that you just said that was really, really key. And you've used this word compromise a couple of times now. You said that when you compromise too much, you feel like you are used and abused. I think that's a really powerful statement, and I haven't seen it that way before. But as you say that, you're right, because I think about myself when being in a relationship with someone, and I'm like, I keep doing all this stuff for you, and I feel like it's always me giving, and you
Mm-hmm.
always taking, but what are you doing for me? How am I benefiting from this? And then I do take on this type of feeling of resentment or even insecurities brew in that place, right? And so as you talk about that, the physical manifestations of that, talk tell us a little bit more about what the compromising per se, out of trying to take control of a situation, what did that do to you, for
I have
you?
the perfect analogy. You take a glass jug, right? There's only 8 ounces, 8 to 16 ounces in the jug.
Right,
And then every cup that you have needs 8 ounces. So every
right.
time you pour water into the cup, you're emptying yourself. But the other person's not replenishing you. After a while, you start to break down. So that was my situation. Every time I filled you up, I was looking for that reciprocation and I wasn't getting it, which
Mm.
turns into arguments, disagreements, things that take away from a marriage and a relationship, which becomes detrimental at a point.
Yeah. So you talk about that arguments and the things that are detrimental. Tell us a little bit about the struggle you had with kind of holding on to the painful thing that you loved. Because I imagine that you did have some type of love for the person that you married, right?
Yes.
Um, Tell us about what that struggle was that you had with holding on to the painful thing.
Miss Jackson, I tell you the truth. The thing was, I was in love with the person, but
Mm,
I was in love with the family. I had 2 children with this person. I decided to build a life with this person. I started planning. We gonna save money, house, car. How can we be a power couple? So my mind was going ahead of me, and I'm thinking, hey, maybe you want to buy into this. So I'm gonna invest in you. We invest in each other and pull each other up and move forward. But then it didn't turn out that way. And when it didn't turn out that way, frustration came back. It's like a wicked monster, like a green eye
mm,
monster. And I just started verbally saying how I felt. I had no disregard. I didn't care about feelings. I just said, hey, this is not working. Something's wrong. So my emotions were on my sleeve and they came out through my mouth. And
yeah.
I said, something has to, this is not marriage. This is not love. This is not commitment. If I moved from one place to another and left my family and left my friends to come here with you and build a life with you, how come you can't see this? Where's the
Mm,
disconnect between us?
yeah. That's good for you to say that part of it. I think that a lot of men struggle with being able to verbalize the things in which they feel in that way, and I think that a lot of people take for granted the fact that our men do have a struggle with saying that, and so when they open up we tend to like dismiss them. Can you tell us a little bit more about, what it takes for a man to be able to verbalize those types of frustration, or even what I have some friends who are like, he's acting crazy and he's doing this and he needs to grow up and he keep going off and he's doing whatever. But those are the ways in which he's trying to verbalize something that's going on in him. What can you give us to be able to see what this all really means? Does he
Okay.
really care or does he not? Is it because sometimes it feels like the way he cutting deep? Do he care? What is it?
Well, Ms. Jackson, before we begin, I have a degree from Dell State in counseling. So I'm used to the open forum and speaking, communicating. Plus, for my whole life, I lived with women. And women talk and they communicate. They tell you how they feeling. So in the
Okay.
house I grew up in, it was like, hey, say how you feel. Don't act out. We can have an open line of communication. Sometimes when men go off and do certain things, I can't speak for every man, but I can only speak for the ones that I know. When they go off and do something, try to get your attention and your focus back on them, they're telling you so many words. I feel neglected. Now,
Hmm.
brothers, if I'm wrong, hit me in the text comments. Hey, I'm wrong. They want your attention. They want you to focus on them without feeling vulnerable or weak.
Hmm.
Like,
That's
I don't
good.
want to feel weak or look weak with the woman that I'm with. Sometimes open communication with your partner makes you look stronger than you'll ever be, because that open line between a couple, that means you have bridged the gap. And
So
women are much more receptive to that now.
yeah, so you're telling us when men show frustration, it's a sign that they want our attention. Is that what you want us to make sure that we get from that piece?
Yes, but also frustrated they can't find the words to communicate with their significant other. I
Okay.
found myself in that position. Well, how can I get across to you how I'm feeling without looking weak in the process? Because
And
remember, everybody has egos. Everybody has their needs and they have egos. So at the same time, it's like, how can I get across my needs to be met and not look punkish in a way? That's one where I can come up with like that one.
so I imagine that, do you still have that same feeling or insight? So as you talked about the degree that you have and growing up in the family, that thought about expressing yourself and not feeling weak, right? Or feeling not wanting the woman, your other partner, to see you as weak. Is there anything in which you can say that you have learned from that perspective now as you look back on it, as far as the communication piece is concerned?
I should have been much more common. Like my professor said, when it comes to psychology and counseling, it's hard to use it in a relationship setting. Let's say I have a relationship with you and I'm talking to you. We're in an intimate relationship with each other. So my feelings are still attached to you. So to counsel you would be a no-no.
Right.
I can't use psychology in a relationship, because if you try to psychoanalyze somebody that you're involved with, your personal feelings come out. That frustration that you have with that person comes out in that counseling. So you're not supposed to use it.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to use the psychology tactics and methods I learned in open communication in a relationship. Because if I have love for you, I want the best for you and my needs met. There's a selfishness there still.
Mm. That's good. So inside of us loving people, we tend to sometimes forget that there's a selfish component in that, right? Is that I love you, but I want my needs met as well, right? I care for you and I want to do these things for you, but I want you to do these things for me too. So there's a selfishness in the love. I haven't digested it to that degree yet. I'm a sit on that one though. I like that. It got me
Eh,
thinking in my mind.
that's right. I'm just gonna send you a bill anyway.
That, that
I'll give you my
that's okay.
invoice.
That's all right. That's all right. So as we talk about those pain points and the things that we needed to digest, was there ever a point that you saw triumph in your pain?
As far as while in the marriage or out the marriage?
either way, like as you were going in, because sometimes we see glimpses of hope, right? Like things might get better and things might change. And so we stay in there and we hold on. And that's what makes us continue to hold on more or fight and continue to fight. What was there anything that showed up that made you feel like there was some triumph in the midst of the pain that you were experiencing? Or did that not happen while you were together, or it was a false sense of something and then
False sense of something.
And then
It,
afterwards,
now it's like playing the chess game. You play chess?
somewhere I know about chess.
If you open up your chessboard, somebody will open up a lane for you to try to attack their queen or their king to take the piece.
Right,
That's a glimmer of hope to get an opening. If there's no opening, you can't go where you need to go. But when you get
right,
that glimmer of hope, then you close it, then you have to think of a new strategy.
right.
So it was more of a chess game in the relationship. Like if I do this, then this person will do this for me. So it was almost like
Mhm.
playing the game backwards and forwards. And I'm not for game playing, so I didn't
Yeah.
want to play. I didn't want to play the game anymore. So
Mm.
we had to discontinue the game.
So while you were playing that game, though, what happened? What were some of the things that ended up manifesting itself? I could assume that you played the game for quite some time until you recognized that something wasn't right, or the game wasn't fair, or you didn't have a chance to win. So tell me about that.
Miss Jackson, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't trying to win. I was trying to be cohesive.
Hmm. What does that mean?
I learned from your strategies, but if we're going to play this game of life together, we have to work as a team and a tandem, a pair. I got to the point where once people started giving you ultimatums, okay, I'm gonna give you an ultimatum. Either do this or get out of my life. Once somebody does that, basically they want control of the relationship, control of you, the way you think and the way you move and operate, and how you treat them. Not willingly giving you love. I have to tell you how to love me, and you accept whatever I give you. That's not love.
Hmm.
When you reach that point, somebody give me an ultimatum. Take what I have to give you and keep your mouth closed, and we move forward. That's not love.
So tell me about some of the feelings that arose out of the situation and the circumstance. Whether did and I think that it's still up in the air about how tremendous the relationship and the things that were going on, how much it impacted you. I don't know how much you're wanting to share or you're willing to share, but share with us what you can share about the impact of what had transpired, what it had done to your life, and at what point did you have to just stop and say enough
Okay,
is enough,
I can
or
do
did
that.
something make you stop and say enough is enough?
Something made me stop. I got to a point. I'm working. I'm at work, working hard, and this particular person sends notification to my job. Now
Mm.
I'm trying to be the utmost professional. I'm a principal. I have to be ahead of the building. They send notifications to my job saying they no longer want to be married. Okay, I understand that. I get that. I'm not nasty. I just follow suit. Well, I thought the paperwork. Is this what you want? We'll go ahead with it. Now I tried to be as non-aggressive as possible. So I went down that road, and it went at when I did that, I didn't take the person up on the ultimatum,
Right.
which made situations worse. So you don't want to take me up on my offer. My offer's not good enough. Well, I'm gonna make you pay. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I get it, I understand. So I took that, but my main focus was my children. I
Right.
didn't want my children to get caught in the crossfire.
Mhm. Right.
Which happened to my sister and myself when my parents broke up. We got caught in the crossfire. I didn't want that for
Mm.
my children. So it was history repeating itself. When
Mm.
history repeated itself, I'm thinking of you ever like Tony Allen's holding the world up on his shoulder? You're kicking my legs from under me, but I'm holding up the world that you're in.
Yeah.
Bills, finances, spiritual, everything you can think of. but you want your way so bad, you can kick my legs from under me and the world's gonna topple. So when
Yeah.
that happened, I got a notice in the mail. I looked at that notice. This is after I got the notification in my office. I go to
Mm-hmm.
my post office box, open post. I get a notice. I look at the notice. I go about my business. I come. I go to work the next day. I was in the cafeteria doing lunch duty as principals do. I hit the floor. I passed out. My blood
Mm-hmm.
pressure was 280 over 180. I had a blood clot. Blood clot was bad. Like it went up to my neck. It went up to my brain. They rushed me to a hospital in Maryland. So bad they had to fly me out to Philadelphia and perform what you call cranioplasty. They had to
Mm-hmm.
cut and release the pressure, or I was going to die.
Wow.
Doctor said only because you're a young man, you're in shape, you live. The guy next to me in the bed had the same problem. He died.
Wow.
They told me whatever stress you were going under, it caused that to happen to you.
Wow.
So
That's heavy, right? That we think that we carry around, and there's something about when you were talking about the stress and the things, like you were just going on as if everything was okay, and like you were just trying to carry the burden and do business as usual. What that means to us is so much more than what we could even think or imagine. I think about even people who want to say, oh, she is superwoman, she carrying it all, but being the bag lady ain't it, right? Having all of the weight on you and the weight of the world on you isn't it. And that if we continue to hold on to these things, we unfortunately cause not the thing in which we love the most. So as you were talking and saying you were trying to keep your children from one thing, you almost ended up in a position whereby your children may not have even had you at all,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
Because you were trying to hold on to something else, or you were stressing out about something that essentially you needed to let go of, right?
That
And
was my biggest fear.
yeah,
Dying in the house and my kids finding me.
yeah.
That was my biggest fear.
That's so important that we miss the fact that us holding on to the pain of things and not allowing ourselves to grieve through the process the appropriate way and trying to maintain control over something that we don't, or someone that we don't have control over, actually puts us in a place, in a position whereby we lose in the end, right? It's a never ending battle, a battle that we cannot win. And I learned that hard way too. I'll say that I learned that the hard way too, that I ended up getting physical manifestations of sickness and all kinds of things that were happening, ailments that were happening inside of my body, fears of cancers and different things like that, due to me trying to save something that was already dead, and I wouldn't let it die. And so I needed I wasn't trusting God, right? I wasn't trusting myself. I wasn't trusting God's plan for my life. And I thought that I needed to scramble and pick things back up and make it be exactly what it wasn't. But there's something to be said about that, right? There's a lot to be said about that. And so with that, I want you to just tell us what just made you stop pursuing the pain in your life and begin your journey toward healing. I
Ended
know
up
that it just wasn't just the sickness. What
nah,
else was
I ended up in a place called Health South.
it?
If you're from New Jersey, you know where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up in a rehab place, and there was an evangelist there. This woman was a total saint. She came into my life and she said, "You need to slow down. Like seriously, like I feel it
Mm-hmm.
from your spirit that you were 100. You going 100." And she sat down with me. She read the Bible with me every day, even though she was a nurse there, but she came into my room and read to me and read scripture to me, and we sat down and talked about God and everything else. And I told her I felt forsaken and lost because I did everything what you call right. I felt I was a good husband. I felt I
Mhm.
was a good father. I tried to be faithful. I work hard. And I said, what did I do wrong? She said, you didn't do anything wrong. She said, God had to slow you down or you would have killed yourself. That's why you're here. She said, God had to stop you from killing yourself. So he stopped you. You may have had a stroke and had the brain aneurysm. He slowed you down before you can totally complete the job. And that was a process in itself going through that. I had to learn how to walk and talk again. I lost sight in both my eyes.
Mm.
And eventually, when my blood pressure came down, everything came back. I was fully restored. But the damage was done from withholding all that anger and frustration. And but she said you have to release it and give it to God. If you don't, you're not going to get back on the road to get back to your children. That was a critical day. She told me that.
Wow. So that was like your turning moment. That was the moment whereby you were like, listen, either I let this go and I pursue a different thing, or I continue to do this and I lose out on everything I love.
True, true,
that that the thing that I want to take note of, and that I don't want to overlook, is the fact that someone was there, right? That someone stepped up to the plate, that someone was obedient enough to God, someone was pursuing God enough to stop and say to you in the situation that you were in that you weren't alone, and to feed you the word of God. What what did that do for your life at that moment?
at that moment, I told you I felt forsaken and abandoned. I felt like Job.
Mm,
I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost my money, my job, all in one swoop. My health was in crisis, and I had read scripture Job before I got sick. So I was like, wow, am I the modern day Job? Not to be so bold to say that, but I felt like, wow. I know how close to how Job felt because he lost his children and everything. I didn't get to that point, but when that happened to me, and I'm laying there, and they told me in the hospital, well, they told me in rehab, you have a year to live. Because I was diagnosed with something else while I was in the hospital. They said, you have a year to live, basically.
yeah.
I had sacrificed myself that much that I brought my life expectancy to almost 32.
Wow.
At the time I got sick, I was 32. They said, yeah, you have a year to live. If you don't do this, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And I reached out to our mutual friend, and I talked to her, and I told her, and she actually cried on the phone with me.
Yeah.
That touched my heart. I was like, wow, we're friends. She actually crying for me. I'm not her man. I'm not related to through blood. We're only spiritual friends. And she cried on the phone with me. I told her I only have a year to live. At that point, I was like, I gotta change. Something has to change.
Mm. I heard in there that that friendships can heal, right?
True, true.
And so it speaks of our character and our integrity, about the way in which we show up to our friendships and the power of our friendships when we're going through. I think about another friend of mine right now, who's going through something, and her ability to say thank you for being there for me while I'm going through this. I love you. The I love you is a genuine I love you, because we're there to support them, and what that means to a person to have someone present with them as they endure something, it means so much. I want to kind of begin to transition this a little bit, just to the point of what I want you to impart on the people today. What I want you to be able to, that you believe God has given you, throughout your experience, to give to the people. So as we begin that part of the conversation, I really want you to think about what were some of the biggest lessons that were revealed to you through this entire process? What were some of those things, even from a little boy to the man you are now, and even from the man in the family who wants the family but didn't get to have the family, the man who's struggling for to have the life that essentially, a lot of people wish for but can't have? Like, what are some of those lessons that were revealed to you, and what would you tell someone who's struggling to let
Um, if you don't let go, it's gonna be a divine intervention sooner or later. Either stress is gonna catch up with you, or the person that you are with is gonna make the decision for you and take the control out of your hands. To answer your second part of your question, I learned patience, grace, and faith. I was a religious person, but to put have blind faith came later on because some of the doctors told my mom I'll never walk again.
go?
I'll never walk again. I will never be able to. I've met people along my journey who they couldn't read or write anymore because they had told like massive strokes. They forgot their name, their social security number, everything was done. God bless, I didn't get to that point because I had people around me to remind me who I was and to help me through my process. I've learned that family is very important. A strong family unit, aunts, uncles, cousins will get you through a whole lot. And staying in faith, a true believer, is something that's going to get you through your hard times, and not to
Mm.
and not to forsake. Because a lot of people said, "Man, I blame God for this situation." No, and I had this conversation with one of my friends the other night. There is a blessing that happened to me because it slowed me down enough to realize who I am and what I want and what direction I need to head in. It got to a point I was put on dialysis for 7 years. While on dialysis for 7 years, I was counseling, helping people through the process that I was going through too. And I learned at that point in time, my job was not just to be a person on earth; it was to help people. As I counsel people, and when I counsel people, I took it from a different point. I'm in the same chair as you, but I survived 7 years. I only been to the hospital once. People go in the hospital every day because they weren't following the rules. So I had to disseminate the information to them so they can comprehend it. Because the technology, the techs of the nurses would talk to them like they were medical people. I said, mm-mm. I said, you need to be real with them and tell them what could happen, not just say do this. You have to be direct and straightforward and be honest. So I became a counselor in the dialysis vicinity, and that helped people survive. People when I left the dialysis center, people were sad to see me go and give me hugs and crying and saying, "We're going to miss you because without you, I wouldn't survive this." So I found my second calling during this whole process.
Yeah. So I had typed down there that you found purpose in your pain. Um,
Yes, yes. Blessings, guys.
yeah. There were a lot of big words that you used in there. They're words that were probably only those who have theological understanding and those who have a relationship with God really would understand. How can you break that down into something that just meets the everyday need of any person who's just struggling? Like, what is it that you can offer to them based upon your experience? What does the faith look like?
The faith is, and Miss Jackson, you may call me a little out there. When God speaks to me, I stop. I stop. If somebody say talk to this person, I stop in my tracks and talk to a person. They may need that. I always did this as a teacher and a principal. You give somebody 5 minutes worth of your time, you have them for a lifetime.
Right.
I would be walking in the hallway, going to my treatment. I would stop and talk to a person. Just a friendly word or advice got them through one session, then the next session, and then the following session. Just having those words of encouragement and stuff that I've been through and giving my testimony and how I survived, they're like, wow, you've been through a whole lot. You can make it, I can make it.
Right.
I think that encourages people just to give them 5 minutes of your time.
Yeah. And I hear that in different ways, right? Give 5 minutes of your time, whether you are the person who is going through or the person who has gone through. 5 minutes of your time could mean so much to not just others, but to you as well, right? So
Definitely,
so
definitely.
that's an important thing to know and do is to just give 5 minutes of your time. Speak to someone whom you don't know, just say hi, and how that could change someone. When I would love for you to be able to talk about just a little bit more about how you found, or even if you found, a new respect for letting go and letting God, right? What that really truly meant to you.
Okay. I was diagnosed in 2014 with renal failure. My kidneys had totally shut down because of my high blood pressure.
Mm,
And at that point, I'm like, look, it told me I had a year to live. I was like, well, let me start getting my life insurance together, start saving money. I'm thinking the negative instead of just going towards God and saying, God, take this from me, heal me. I went to a church sermon because there's a church right by my house, and the pastor was going through the same thing I was going through. His kidneys
mm,
were failing too. And he went and told a whole speech, hey, I'm alive. I'm here to preach to you. I'm going to be healed. And he claimed it. And when he claimed it, it happened. So he said,
mm,
if you start claiming and live your life like there's nothing wrong, God will see that and you receive your blessing. So
mm.
he said to me, he said, Brother Allen, I know you're young. You're younger than I am. He said, you need to get up, get out in life, only tell people your story. That way they can see that you're thriving, even though you're in a tight situation. And I followed his words and it came true. I got a call the 25th of February. I had a call to get a 20-year-old kid, 20-year-old person passed away, and I got their kidney.
Wow. Wow. Well, I say praise be to God for that you were able to get the kidney, and I know that had been something that you have been wanting and needing and looking forward to and praying for quite some time. I, what we make it sound so easy though. We make it sound like, hey, it's just all we gotta do is just go in there and just believe that God's gonna send somebody out here and we gonna just live and just do this one little thing and then it's over. What's the process?
it's it,
Let's really be real.
let's be honest.
Yes,
Seriously,
seriously.
7 years of being on my knees, praying scriptures, church every Sunday until COVID hit. Then it was online church. Then it was church on the phone. It was like walking in blind faith. I tell you, I saw loved ones die during the whole process. I had family, I had connections in dialysis. People were dying around me. People catching COVID, passing away, but keeping that blind faith. And it was angels sent to me. People saying, "Look, your turn is coming. Stay patient." Because they will offer me all types of offers, things that you wouldn't even take. You wouldn't even ask your worst enemy to take. I said, I can't do that because that's not going to get me to my goal and my aspirations of seeing my son walk across the stage or my daughter married. I want to have longevity and have purpose and serve that purpose. Taking this type of kidney is not going to get me there. So
Yeah,
I waited and I had blind faith.
yeah,
And every time they called me and said, do you want this? You'll get off early. I said, I'll wait. I'm strong enough to wait. I have faith.
yeah,
I got to a point I was laughing in social workers' face. They would come to me, I laughed at them. I said, I know the God I serve. He's gonna deliver me. I'm gonna be fine. But
yeah,
best believe when I got that kidney, who's the first people calling me? Those same social workers. Are you okay? I said, God's got my back. I'm okay. And they thought I had lost my mind because I was praying when I was in the dialysis chair, walking out singing my hymns, going home. Mom had the Bible music, had the gospel music playing in the parking lot with the big 20-inch speakers. She was I had my advocates there for me to support me. My aunts, my uncles, everybody praying for me.
yeah. So you had that what do we here call that crazy faith? That faith
Yes, I had,
that
I had that
that,
crazy
that
man faith.
crazy faith. It is, it's all good, right? It sounds so glorious as it comes through your lip, but I could imagine the struggle and the pain that you had to endure through the process. I could imagine the sleepless nights and the tears that you cried about where you were in the moment to where you were wanting and hoping and praying yourself to on the other end. And so can you just can you just tell us a
You want
little?
me to tell me the long nights where you sitting up staring at four walls? Those nights are the days that you go to dialysis and you're looking at the walls. They all gray. As a matter of fact, it's gray and it's gray and beige in there. You're depressed, but
Yeah,
then you have to remember, you're not just doing this for you. You
yeah,
have children. You have loved ones who care about you. You don't realize how many people care about you until you're in a bad situation. In my career, I've taught hundreds of students. All my students got on Facebook and looked me up, asking me, "Am I okay?" One of my star athletes called me up. He's a state champ, went to Bowie State. Called me up. He's in his dorm room talking to me. Man, you have to survive. You got to see me graduate. Pushing me on. Call me every day. His grandmother sends prayers to me. He sends prayers to me. You don't realize how many people are in your corner until something traumatic happens to you. My aunt calls it your prayer arm, your prayer army. So it got to a point. Trust me, Miss Jackson. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had some doubts about even when am I gonna get it in time. I've met people who've been on it for 30 years. Been on dialysis for 30 years. I'm like, well, I can't go out that way.
I heard in everything that you just said, in my mind talked about the fact that we dismiss the fact that our healing is ugly, that it's painful, and that we might doubt in the process. But
True,
that
true.
doesn't mean that we give up, right? And it
Don't give
doesn't
up.
mean that we aren't going, that everything is going to be glittery and glamoury and all that good stuff, but that our healing, it is a process. And you're continuing your healing process. Is that not right?
Yes, I am. I'm still going through. They make you go through a whole long year of recovery. I'm still going through the recovery as I'm spoken. Matter of fact, you called me while I was in the hospital.
Yeah,
So you
I
called me
do.
when I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
My family, my friends called me when I was in the hospital, and I told you, I'm gonna have a story to tell you when I get out. And they just
Yeah.
released me maybe a week ago, and we're here talking now.
And look
I'm
at you.
I'm a man of my word. See,
You are. I'm just happy to be able to have the opportunity to walk with you during this journey, to see you in your healing process. One thing that I'm going to say to you, Principal Allen, is that the story is not yet told, right? And it's still more to come to your story. The healing process is not manifested just in your body, but it's in your mind and in the things in which you are going to be doing, which are forthcoming. And so we give honor and we give glory to the highest power that's there, right? For the fact that he saw fit for us to be able to come together, for you to be able to tell this story to others so that they might see how much pain causes us internally, right? And that it's not just in our minds and we can hold it in and we can flesh it out on our own, that we are meant to be in communion with other people, that we are meant to be in relationship with others, and that there are times whereby we need to be able to have someone to help us process out our pain so that we don't cause it to grow inside of us to get us to the place whereby we might lose our lives, right? And the very things that we're stressing about and trying to have control over, we will end up losing anyway, right?
that's
Um,
true. That's true.
so I'm just glad to be able to be a part of the conversation, a part of the journey with you. As we wrap up and we end for today, is there anything else that you want the people to know today? Is there anything else that you want to impart on our listeners?
I just want to thank you for letting me speak my testimony. You are a blessing in disguise because I always thinking, how am I going to give my story to the masses without. I started to write a book, but it got too emotional. I said, you know what? I'm more of a talker. Let me stick to what I know. So I'm happy that I grace your presence and you allow me to come on your network and speak.
Guess what? I told you the story has yet to be told. So you might think that the book is too emotional for you now. It doesn't mean that the book is not still supposed to come to fruition. So I'll be praying on you for your strength. Making sure that you feel like when you're ready, when you got all that you need up in you to do it, that you will do it. I'll be praying that that actually manifests itself. I thank you for being courageous enough to come on into the throne room and to take the cover off to share your story. Hey guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming into the throne room with me as your host, Monica Jackson. Please visit Royalty Mission Network on the web at Royalty Mission Network or royaltynetwork.net. You can also find us on YouTube. You will find us on Facebook and Instagram as well as TikTok. If you have any questions or if you would like to have more information with regards to Principal Allen's story, please feel free to email us or to get in contact with us. Please drop your questions or comments in the box, and we'll be sure to make sure that he gets this information. If you have other stories or other things that you would like to share with us, we want to hear from you. Let us know. As always, again, the same as we've always said before, if you are feeling alone, if you are having issues, if you are feeling as if you are having any type of suicidal thoughts, or if you're feeling like harming yourself or anyone else, you do have a support system. You are not alone. We will drop some information again. You can find the information in the comments box about someone so that you can get in contact with someone to help walk you through the process. We love you guys, and we can't wait to see you next week in the throne room for Barbershop Conversations. Have a great evening.